Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. Governor Doug Ducey marking a milestone this week, 100 days in office, and he spent the day on board the Opportunity Express, making strategic stops to celebrate his accomplishments this year. But he did carve out some time to discuss some of the more controversial decisions he's made since taking office in an exclusive interview with 3TV.
It's been a successful session. It's been a quick session. We balanced the budget. We've got the legislature out of town. But I wanted to give credit where credit was due to Speaker David Gowan and to President Andy Biggs. I think we worked together to move some good legislation forward and to finally get our state's budget balanced, and it wasn't easy.
But looking back now, 100 days, what was your biggest accomplishment?
Well, I would say the hardest thing that we did, Dennis, was balance that budget. That was hard to do. The budget has not been balanced. It hasn't been structurally balanced since 2007. So I ran on a theme of fiscal responsibility, and I didn't want to be talking about the budget year over year. I wanted to make some of the difficult decisions now so we could get the state on firm financial footing. All of our families, all of our small businesses have to live within their means. I thought it was time our government lived within its means, and then we can start growing from here.
How can you ask, like you did last week, the border regions to make college more affordable after you cut $99 million out of their budget?
Well, I think it's important to look at the total number of dollars that are going to education, the fact that including dollars and other sources, they'll have more money next year than they have this year. At the same time, I want to recognize that it was a significant reduction, and I'll come back to the fact that the state didn't have the money. The money that was being put in there was money that the state didn't have. It was deficit spending. The university has offered some ideas around how they handle their insurance, their pension programs, their risk management. I'm open-minded to new ideas on this, which will put more dollars in their pockets, so I want to work with them in a partnership as an advocate, and that's what I offered out, and that's what I asked them to work with me on.
And the cut was $24 million more than what you had wanted. Did you feel like you had to cave to the legislature on this?
Well, I think the budget that we passed was about 98% of what I introduced in January of 16, but you do have to work with the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. It was some difficult decision making because I not only want to see our K12 education system improve, and I'm proud that we were able to protect those dollars, put more dollars into the classroom, but you also want to have a thriving academic environment at the university level. We've got great universities in Arizona State, U of A, NAU. This is actually a partnership with ASU where we are today at the tech shop in Chandler. So I met with the regents last week. I think we put together a framework as to how we move forward, and I'm excited about what's next.
A move that's gotten a lot of attention recently was the hiring of Mark Killian to head up the state ag department. Some people called that move fishy, I believe is what one newspaper called that. And, you know, he's going to be making $100,000 now in that new position. Is this going to silence a loud critic of yours?
I don't think anything's going to silence Mark Killian. Mark is agriculture's a big fan of Mark. We've got a lot of critics out there, and we listen to what's being said, and we react and adjust when necessary. Well, I think that Regent Killian has been a passionate advocate for what he in on education, and some of it I don't disagree with. I'm just coming back to him on the financial facts of where we are as a state. The agriculture community wanted to see him as the director of ag, and they were very vocal about it, and he agreed. We'll be working together on both fronts going forward.
All right, now K12 education obviously was a huge issue in this session. You ran on a campaign putting more money into the classrooms. You governed with the hashtag, putting more classrooms first initiative. JLBC put out a report that said that wasn't the case, that actually K12 schools saw a $21 million cut, while charter schools saw a $10 million increase. Do you still say that you put more money in the classroom?
We're going to put more money into the classroom. What we look at are the total dollars that are flowing into public education on both sides of the equation. What we want to focus on, in addition to funding, are results inside the schools. Net, the amount of cash that's going into K12 and going into the classroom is more than previous year. I understand there is a loud call for even more money, and there's a loud call for the inflation funding formula lawsuit to be settled. We're working on all of that. I called for that in the State of the State, but what we worked with available dollars that we had in the budget this year. It's more than we had last year, and it's more money into the classrooms.
Now, another issue with K12, we're cutting some budgets, cutting some funding for the schools and the districts out there at the same time. Like programs like Teach for America got $500,000 more in permanent funding. Also, charter schools are going to have more access to capital. Are you playing favorites for certain people in the education game?
When it comes to teachers, I'm going to play favorites. So we talked about more money into the classroom, and that means more money available to teachers. I think that teachers are the secret to a great education, and principals that make personnel decisions leading those schools. So when it comes to teachers and principals, play favorites. I'm a big fan of Teach for America. They take some of the best youth in our country and move them into teaching positions, make them part of that education solution, many reformers and good ideas. So I think it's a good investment for our state.
And looking back at it now, I mean, obviously you started off your administration with a pretty public spat with Superintendent of Public Instruction Diane Douglas. Was that worth it?
Well, I don't know how public it really was. We just wanted to make sure that there was clear direction in terms of what the Board of Education was going to do and the role of the governor. We did that, and we're moving forward.
Well, it was pretty public. I mean, there was press releases put out, there were tweets and whatnot. So it was pretty public. I mean, would you have handled it differently now looking back at that?
Well, I'm always going to say that from our office, we're going to work to build relationships, to have strong communication with other elected leaders, with community leaders, with citizens, and with elected statewide. And that's where I think we are with Superintendent Douglas.
And should the legislature have sent you that bill to repeal Common Core?
Well, you're going to have to ask the legislature that. We went to the Board of Education and talked about it's time to look at these standards. It's time to replace Common Core. So we're going to have new standards. But what I want to focus on is excellence inside our schools. I want us to have high standards. I want our kids graduating knowing how to analyze numbers, know how to properly communicate the English language, knowing how to think critically, and to have skills to actually go on, whether it's to college or into the workforce.
Let's look at health care coverage right now, that Arizona may lose 200,000 people in Arizona may lose some health care coverage. Is that really opportunity for all?
Well, I would say that's a hypothetical. One, the Supreme Court hasn't ruled on that. When they do rule, we'll be ready and we'll act from our office. But to talk about all the good things we've done at the state level, fixing the budget, bringing Apple here, lifting the regulations on Uber, having a company like Theranos and SkySong and ASU come to our state. These are all positive things. They're all good for our citizens. And what's being discussed here is a hypothetical that we'll have to deal with if it happens. But because it's a hypothetical, I don't think it's productive to talk about.
Right now, you vetoed a bill that would have given leeway for county attorneys to provide services for couples that want to adopt. Now, a lot of people see this as a way for some county attorneys, notably Bill Montgomery, to get out of helping same-sex couples adopt children. I know you've been asked this before, but I'll ask you again. Do you support same-sex couples adopting children?
What I support is legal, loving adoption. We have 17,000 children in the Department of Child Safety that are in the care of the state. I want to find them a loving foster home, a loving individual. These kids need permanency and they need safety, and I'm going to be supportive of that.
Does that mean you support same-sex couples then?
What I'm supportive of is adoption. I'm supportive of these kids finding a good, safe place to live, and I want to do it in a legal way, and that's how we're going to continue out of this administration and the Department of Child Safety.